Here we are on the brink of the entire world changing. And isn't there something to be said about how heavily the populace has been bombarded with propaganda, disaster, and tragedy to the point it almost seems as if people are numb to the concept of the next world war. It's really, really crazy like that. Maybe some people, especially the older folks, they've been through so many different stages of turmoil where it seemed like this is it, and then society was never really pushed over the edge to where they maybe think it's just an endless cycle of hype. But make no mistake about it, we have entered the threshold of change. Okay? This is real global conflict. Not about to start, not maybe, it's here. It has taken place. And nothing will ever be the same. I promise you. I was saying this before the election. In 2024, I said Donald Trump's going to win and he'll be the last president. I would imagine that this war is going to last several years, and come time for the next campaign and election, most likely they'll invoke emergency powers due to wartime issues, and you'll never see another American president elected again. Now, what is it that people should understand about what exactly is taking place and why this is different than just your classic banker war, right? Where you create problems that you then finance the solution for, and you're paying for both sides and both sides are paying you, and it's a pointless waste of lives and resources. But if you're a super rich person with a corrupt soul, then you make a lot of money. That's what we've seen through most of all our lives. And to some extent, this falls in line with that. Yet, you have to see the religious implications of what we're dealing with here. Very, very severe. See, a lot of people take their religion, even though they seem to be fairly devout, they seem like they take it kind of lightly. Like they're kind of willing to meet people in the middle about, oh, I see the material world and the sciences, and their faith is kind of like their personal thing. But what we're dealing with populations of people who their faith is the only thing that matters, and they are deadlocked against one another. This being the Jewish community and the Islamic world, right? For a lack of better words, as cliche as it sounds, we are now entering the final stages of this holy war. And this is what makes it different, right? So it makes it more than just a typical banker war. Because in the Abrahamic universe, which would be everyone who's rooted in those sort of tribes of Israel stories, of course you have the Jewish people themselves are the first iteration with the Old Testament, and then comes the Christian world and the New Testament, and then supposedly the Quran is the final installment. This is the Abrahamic universe. And in every sector of it, regardless whether you're a beginning, end, or middle guy, it revolves around the end of the world. Okay, it revolves around disaster. And everybody who doesn't believe in their religion perishes, and everybody who does believe in the chosen religion receive salvation or victory or some form of that experience. And we're seeing how it's going to be deadlocked and why this is turning into a global conflict, why this is going to be a real major global war, world war, if you will. Because, see, for the Christians, a lot of Christians especially, they'll tell you they're living out the book of Revelations, and whilst there's been several generations of people prior that have also said the same thing, either way, their thing is it's the book of Revelations, and Jesus is going to come back, and everybody's been baptized, and everybody who believes is going to ascend into the holy place with the Messiah, Jesus Christ, and everybody else will perish, be left on earth to die in damnation. Something to that tune. And now, see, the Jews, that's where the Jews and the Christians don't see eye to eye. That's where, their rift is, right? Because the Jewish people, they don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Okay, they are still awaiting their Messiah, right? And part of what brings the Messiah to their world is this massive war. Okay? It's what's so important to understand is that these folks want this, right? They are not concerned about the implications of what it's going to do to global populations or anybody that's going to suffer, because in their doctrine, the whole deal is that there will be a war between Israel and the rest of the world. And their Messiah will come and help them defeat the entire world, and Israel will rule on high. And it sounds like a happily ever after for them, I suppose. But that's what you have to understand, right? That's why they're shooting these missiles into places that you wouldn't typically say involve modern war, right? It's why they shot a schoolhouse full of schoolgirls in Iran. So they let the world know that this is happening, and they're not backing down. They are entering total war. Okay? You've seen what they did in the Gaza Strip. This is their game plan going forward. So that's their announcement. Like, boom, we're doing this. No more swooping in the shadows. We are here for all-out war and to take over the entire Middle East. And then to go to the Islamic world, you notice kind of a trend. They also have this sort of idea where Islam will sweep across the globe, everyone will become Muslim, and forgive me if I am getting this incorrect, but perhaps they also have a prophet that will come and save everyone that is Muslim. But you're seeing the trend here, right? But the issue is, right, this it's going to be two different cultures, kind of from the same vein, but their ideas for conquering the world for the end times against each other. Okay, again, like we mentioned, the holy war upon us. The Jewish folks, Israel, they're going to go all out, total war in the Middle East, and hope that their prophecy comes true. Perhaps they're rebuilding that temple as we speak. But this isn't going to shake out very well, or perhaps as smoothly as some people hope, because the Muslims are extremely formidable, right? And this goes into their doctrine beyond a moral, ethical scope. This is baked into their religion, right? Because the United States launched a missile and they killed the Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran, and several members of his family. And it is pretty well nonsensical, and perhaps they knew that. Most likely they did, and the whole point of killing him was to start the war. Because ultimately, when you look at it, He's a really old guy. Rumors of having cancer, and there was no way he was going to stick around for that long. But through killing him, you turn this man into a martyr. Okay? And the Shia people of Islam, which they may not be the majority yet, but the Shia people of Islam, their world revolves around martyrdom. Okay? He turned the Ayatollah into a martyr, and now the whole scope of their existence is going to be jihad, to gain vengeance over those who killed their supreme leader. And it's going to get hairy, you know, very, very strange. And we've come so far too, like we're even beyond boots in the ground. Like, I truly believe the turn of the new millennia, war in the Middle East, was kind of a rare happening, right? Because we did this huge ground invasion into cities and then into Afghanistan, and lots of violence, lots of bloodshed. But that's typically not how war is going to be fought with the levels of technology that we have, right? Like, so many people don't realize that the levels of destruction that would already be happening. But it's basically what's going on over there is just missile systems versus missile systems, right? One side shoots a bunch of missiles, and then the other side shoots their anti-missile weapons, and vice versa, right? We'll shoot missiles, they're going to shoot anti-air missiles. And that's what's going on. And this is happening quickly, right? So you see, Iran responds like they're not just going to go after Israel. They're going after those other places that have decided to try to be neutral, like Dubai, the UAE, and everybody who thought it was cool to be there is now realizing what kind of danger they're in. Hopefully, we're going to be able to evacuate all the Americans without any casualties. Nonetheless, it essentially, places like that, they've spent years worth of missile supplies in days, in hours, just defending attacks, right? So a lot of this is going to be a marathon to see who has the most missiles. And who knows what happens when one side runs out. If it'll just be complete destruction, or if they'll roll boots on the ground in. It's a crazy, crazy deal, right? Guys in offices on computers shooting missiles at people. We've come a long, long way from spears and shields on the battlefield. So, make no mistake about it, things will never be the same, right? They tried to keep the facade up since 2020. Like, we just got to work our way back into it. I said it in 2020. As soon as the BS started, here we go, show's on. But people, we got to get through this. We'll go back. There's no going back, my friends. We are at the threshold of change. And what direction we go is based on the level of compliance from the population. That's what it comes down to. Will you accept it? Will you acquiesce to the powers that be? Or will you stand? Will you rise shoulder to shoulder with your countrymen? Because we see the opinions online, right? People feel strongly about what's happening. You got to bring it into the physical world. All right? So this is it. Welcome to the new world. And, the fat lady hasn't sang yet. Where we're going is going to be highly, highly dependent on the action the people take. If we lay down and just let whatever happen, then we're going to come out on the other side in not very good shape. But we have the power. The people have the power. The whole entire point of the propaganda machine is to make you feel hopeless. To make you feel like you can't do anything about it, because there is power in the people together. All right, so the world is changing, and Make no mistake about it. It's the world that you grew up in. It's gone. It's gone. It's never coming back. You'll be able to tell, if you make it through this, all the youth in your golden days about, how you lived through the peak of the American Empire. It's a wild, wild perspective, but it's true. So we got to get through this. War is here. This war is going to change everything, but it doesn't have to put us in a worse spot. The people still have the power. All right. So be ready. Be ready. It's happening.